Thank you and welcome to our solution selling series. I am Kyle Fenske, director of our channel and recently titled channel chief here at Scale Computing. I wanted to welcome everyone to this webinar series. I am your new host for this series, so you'll start to see my face a little bit more often here. I am joined by Mitch Etchason, our senior product manager today. We're going to be covering really the VMware alternative, a partner playbook here for the VMware alternative, as well as some new pricing updates that we're really excited about. So in this webinar, you can expect really understanding what the market opportunity is here, some common objections that we're hearing and how you can overcome them. We'll dive into the new licensing options available for you, and then we'll wrap up with some resources that are going to help you really go and be successful in this new market. And then we'll dive into Q&A. Couple quick housekeeping items before we get going here. You'll see on the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A section and a chat section. If you have questions throughout this presentation, make sure you're putting it in that Q&A section. That way, we'll be able to go through and answer it either live on the fly. I'll interrupt Mitch from time to time to really just give him or ask him the questions as they're coming in. But anything that we don't get to throughout the presentation, we'll wrap up with at the end there. And then for everyone's knowledge, we are recording this webinar, so we will be able to send this back out to you to rewatch as you need. So with that, Mitch, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm excited to dive in here. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Kyle. So to start out, I just wanted to again touch base on the market opportunity that we're seeing due to the changes at VMware post Broadcom acquisition. So as I'm sure pretty much all of us are experiencing directly on this call, um, VMware is significantly different now than what it was in November 2023 when it was um, when the acquisition by Broadcom was completed. And since then, it has been very clear, both in strategy and then what we're all hearing in the channel and through customers, that Broadcom sees VMware as a solution that they are aiming at the enterprise. Um, they are planning on increasing their presence in enterprise software. They've already moved customers from those perpetual licenses to subscriptions. And as a result, kind of the majority of kind of industry leaders view the acquisition negatively. And that's coming directly from Gartner. So the industry has seen this shift in a not too positive light. They are continuing to focus kind of exclusively on those Fortune 5,000 customers. And as a result, VMware is essentially leaving the SMB market. Um, so by 2029, again, this is coming straight from Gartner. Uh, we are expecting the VMware HCI install base to shrink from 60% market share to 30%. Now that's just HCI, but we're seeing even bigger changes more broadly just in the virtualization market. And so, as I'm sure a lot of you all have seen from your customers and prospects, when a VMware renewal is coming up, customers are incentivized or at least interested in a way they haven't been in years at what alternatives are available. Some customers may ultimately decide that the price increases, the support quality decreases are worth it and they want to stick with VMware. But we are seeing countless customers at least looking at the lay of the land to get a better feel of if they don't want to stick with Broadcom, if they don't want to stick with VMware because of all these changes, well, where can they move? And it is this exact time, it's this market opportunity that we want to make sure that we all equip our partners to go and tackle with Scale Computing Platform. And so that's kind of what we want to do here, right? We want to make sure that our partner base can go discover those customers, discover those prospects that are interested in VMware alternatives, interested in moving away, make sure that you all have the knowledge and tools that you need to sell those customers on Scale Computing Platform as an alternative so that way you can go and continue to transact and bring those customers from VMware over to the Scale Computing Platform, which will be better for them, better for you, and really kind of positive, particularly because of all of these crazy changes post Broadcom acquisition. And so, in order to help you tackle this market opportunity. I wanted to run down some common objections that we hear and suggestions on how I would recommend that you handle those objections with your customers. So starting out,
Mitch, real quick, before you dive into the objections, there's a couple of questions that popped up real quick in the chat here. One person said that they had a potential customer of scale, but one of the biggest selling pieces was the encryption at rest that VMware has. Does Scale have encryption at rest or in flight?
yeah, so that's a good question. So we recently implemented VTPM technology primarily to support Windows 11, but as a kind of benefit that also makes it really easy to use in-guest encryption tools like BitLocker. Whereas before VTPM, you need to like manage external BitLocker keys. Excuse me. And now you don't need to do that. It's all built right into the VTPM. So we have a really easily deployable encryption technology. We also have third-party alliances with tools like High Trust and WinMagic. And so we have kind of options that satisfy most of the customers that we're working with, but we're continuing to evaluate encryption options as those become more and more important with things like cybersecurity and cyber insurance providers.
Perfect. And there's one more about how does Scale define an SMB customer? How many servers do you typically see?
Yeah, that's another good question. So with our SMB customers, we typically see it's very common to have three host deployments. So in the hyperconverged scale world, three node clusters with potentially a production cluster and then maybe a secondary cluster for DR. So kind of anywhere from the I have, one, either I'm fully managed by a MSP or I have 1 to 5 total IT admins in the business. And then looking at that kind of 1, 2, or 3 cluster deployment. That's typically what we see, what we consider as SMB.
Perfect. That's all we have.
Awesome. All right, so the first objection, and this typically comes right off the bat, is, why should I trust scale computing? Who is scale computing? And this one is actually pretty easy to respond, luckily, because scale, as some of you may or may not know, has been around since 2007. We are an established vendor in the Gartner HCI Magic Quadrant. And so, they know us, analysts know us. We actually, fun fact, coined the term hyperconvergence all the way back in 2012. Um, Plus, we're backed by major funders like Lenovo and like Morgan Stanley. So not only are we proven and that we've been around for over a decade now, but have been in the HCI market since day one with Hypercore. It used to be called HC3. We're backed by industry best funders, and SE platform is award winning. And so, I would always point customers to external review sites like TrustRadius, like Gartner peer reviews to see firsthand and show firsthand all the great quotes and accolades that we get. So a lot of responses here. We don't have as big of a brand as a company like VMware or Broadcom, of course, but we are trusted and certainly celebrated by the channel, the industry, and our customers. All right, next objection, backup and backup solution integration. So this is another key one. Customers that are evaluating a change from VMware will be looking at solutions coming from the perspective of basically, since I was on VMware, all of the backup solutions, all of the third-party solutions kind of integrate with VMware and have for a while now. I have my preferred backup tools. Will those work with scale computing? And the answer, the vast majority of the time, is a customer can use whatever backup solution they want to protect hypercore virtual machines and applications. Essentially, if a backup vendor has in-guest agents or the ability to back up physical machines, that typically means you could use those agents to back up VMs on Hypercore. And a lot of solutions like Veeam, for example, have built-in tools to manage kind of remote agent deployment, management, updating, etc., which also takes some of that management overhead going with agents off of the table. As far as full agentless integrations go, excuse me, we have a hypervisor level integration with Acronis. So that's exactly what you'd expect. You get to deploy a virtual appliance directly on the scaled cluster, at which point Acronis would be natively aware of all virtual machines and you can manage your backups from a single pane of glass. The same can be said for Storeware, which is a popular backup and DR tool in the European market. And both of those provide kind of a rich data protection suite, as does HyperCore directly, though. And so we see kind of a combination of between using in-guest agents with your preferred third-party backup tools or using Acronis or Storeware, plus a combination of our automated snapshotting and DR, we really can hit the vast majority of customers' requirements when it comes to their data protection, backup, and DR strategies. Additionally, some as you may or may not know, we have our own homegrown cloud DR offering called Cloud Unity, which again is just another thing that you can layer on for customers that want the additional security of having, backups offsite plus backups in the cloud for rapid DR should there be a site-wide disaster, like a natural disaster or a fire or something like that. And we are working on additional native backup integrations with really popular backup offerings. I can't say any more on this webinar, unfortunately, but contracts are signed and we are in process on scoping additional agentless integrations out. Okay, next objection, migration onto HyperCore. This is a very common one, again, one looking at customers that are evaluating coming over from VMware, because typically those customers have been on VMware for years now and are running comfortably, have probably gone through several infrastructure upgrades. And so it's a big perceived risk on how will I get all of my critical applications from VMware over to HyperCore. And fortunately, we have an all-you-can-eat menu. We have a myriad of ways that we can either through our own scale computing services team to augment the customer's IT department or MSP services, or we have self-managed options that we can point customers to satisfy any number of preferences when it comes to migration. So as far as self-managed options go, for those customers that can handle downtime and are just looking at easy built-in ways to get applications onto HyperCore, you can, excuse me, directly import foreign VMs from an SMB share right to HyperCore. You can also, and this is a newer feature, upload virtual disks directly to the media section of a cluster. And so that would be great for things like a virtual appliance that comes pre-packaged with a virtual disk. You can upload that, attach it to a VM, boot, and then you're ready to go. Now, as many of you know, not all customers are going to be okay with downtime, and that would be their preference. That's going to be the most important aspect of their migration strategy is how can I eliminate downtime? And for that, we sell a great product called Scale Computing Move. So Scale Computing Move is powered by our friends at Carbonite, and it minimizes downtime when migrating from a solution to VMware, from VMware to HyperCore. So there you would use the Carbonite technology that we resell, that we fully support. Take your target or your source, take your target, then do a replication and then quick cutover, which vastly minimizes downtime. If you do have customers that want to avoid any of the manual kind of VM by VM configuration that would be required by a tool like Scale Computing Move, we also offer Scale Computing Migrate, which is powered by Acronis, which essentially automates a lot of the manual configuration actions that would typically be needed for a migration. If a customer can have a minimal downtime window, Acronis can actually take your backups from a platform like VMware and automatically create those as VMs that get instantiated onto the target HyperCore cluster without any manual intervention. And so this could be a great option if the customer's preference or it's most important to eliminate, cut down on the manual steps needed for a migration rather than cut down on downtime. And of course, we can also do bare metal restores from any number of third-party backup tools, of course, as I kind of mentioned. And then our scale computing services team has both quick start migration services. So let's say you buy Scale Computing Move and you just want us to help you understand the tool, get one VM migrate over. We'll set you up for success that way. Or, a customer just wants to eliminate all of the perceived risk in a migration. We can handle the entire lift and shift over, get every application from VMware over to HyperCore directly ourselves with our Scale Computing Services team. All right. Similarly to the backup integration question, though, is another objection around, well, will my applications run? Excuse me. Typically, I would go as far as to say 99% of the time, if an application runs on a virtualized system, it will run on HyperCore. And so this screenshot is actually directly from our website. We have a list of third-party applications that we've heard from customers are running successfully on HyperCore that you could reference and point a customer to, particularly if you see their application running. This is, kind of what virtualization is all about. If an application is designed to run on Windows or Linux on kind of an x86 platform, then it's going to run on HyperCore. And I would be confident telling that to every customer or prospect that I work with. We do have a white paper about this particular topic that you could send out as well. But then please don't be afraid to then loop us into that conversation. I know our solutions architecture team is more than happy to get a list from you all on what applications are required to be running as a part of the project, and give insights, tips, tricks, anything that you need to build that confidence with your customer that, again, yes, it will run on HyperCore. All right. So those were some more technical business company objections. Another one that we get is on pricing. So before I move to this kind of broader topic, Kyle, are there any other questions or things you'd like to tackle?
There is one that popped up in here. One person reached out asking that they were able to leverage Red Hat to get them away from VMware and would like to know why they should talk to Scale as an alternative instead of going with someone like Red Hat.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, as many of you know, Scale is based on KVM, and so we leverage open source technologies like a Red Hat. But kind of our secret sauce is we do all of the really hard design and engineering work that makes leveraging that type of technology dead simple and easy to use. A open source deployment, I refer to them almost as a do it yourself, a DIY deployment. Those can be really great, really cost effective, but the customer is going to need to be okay with one essentially being the kind of final line of support for that critical infrastructure unless they are paying for like Red Hat support, which can be challenging and intimidating. And also we have everything pre-configured, pre-built together. Whereas if you're rolling your own dice, going the DIY route, it can be very effective. That technology is very powerful, but it can often be tricky to integrate and customize directly for your deployment, your needs. And so we take all that heavy lifting off of your plate and provide a turnkey, ultra reliable, easy to use platform. Another thing to mention here is we're a full hyperconverged product. So that means that we have the virtualization layer as well as software-defined storage, with our appliances having the storage embedded directly on the hosts, all managed by our block architecture scribe. And so that means that you also do not need to, leverage open source storage technologies like Ceph, particularly if you don't want to go the external storage route. And Scribe again is going to be a lot easier to use because it's pre-built, pre-configured, unlike a open source software defined storage solution like Ceph. and typically more performance. So it's a really good question. It's essentially taking all of the hard work that goes into building your own open source technology and going to going to us for that pre-configuration, as well as full end-to-end single throat to choke support, where you're not going to have to go to one vendor for the hardware, one vendor for the software, et cetera. You only work with scale computing in a way that these customers that are evaluating changes from VMware typically really like. Um, it's a really good question, and it actually kind of butts up directly with my conversation on pricing. So scale computing traditionally, we really strive to be a low cost leader in the space and provide excellent value for our infrastructure solutions. But what's interesting is because the shift in the market away from VMware is so broad, we have prospects and customers that are coming to our partners that have a little bit different uh, expectations and budgets than is traditional. As I just mentioned, scale computing is a full hyperconverged offering. We do not today offer just a hypervisor only product, like, say, a vSphere. Um, when you buy scale computing, you get HyperCore, you get the virtualization hypervisor, and you get Scribe for software defined storage. And it's interesting because customers that are evaluating VMware changes are often not already using hyperconverged infrastructure. They're using external storage. And so that'll often mean they come to solutions like scale computing looking to say only refresh their VMware licensing rather than the whole stack, hosts, hardware, external storage, hardware, etc. And sometimes these customers don't even assign a ton of value to software-defined storage just because they're so comfortable with their SAN or their NAS or whatever external storage they're using, however they're managing storage redundancy and reliability. And so they aren't coming to the solution set evaluating HCI. And so for all of these reasons, a lot of the customers that might be coming to you looking at scale computing are not looking for a total kind of overhaul, which is what we would be offering. If someone is coming to us and they only want to, replace just their hosts or just their VMware solution or their licensing, scale computing will be positioning the entire solution. We will be positioning host hardware refresh, storage refresh, and hypervisor refresh. And as a result, we've been getting pricing objections from customers that are moving over from VMware just because the scope of a scale computing deployment is so much larger than, oh, I'm just replacing my virtualization licensing or I'm just replacing my hosts. And so as a result, we wanted to introduce new licensing options to make sure that you all in the channel, our valued partners, have additional tools in the toolbox to make sure that you can match up with the pricing expectations and requirements for customers. And that's what I touch on right now. So kind of for the first time ever, this is very exciting. And this is going live next week. So you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek. Scale Computing is introducing a segmented HyperCore license. So there will be two versions of HyperCore, HyperCore Standard and HyperCore Professional. And the reason that we wanted to implement a tiered license model is that more than ever, we have a diverse customer set because of how many people are looking to change from VMware. And that diverse set of customer needs means that there's a wide variety of economic sensitivities with organizations that have significantly different budget constraints, purchasing power, and also different feature requirements. And so we want to make sure that we allow you all in the channel, you all, our partners, to have different licensing options to one, match with the actual features that are needed by your prospects and by your customers to make sure that we are delivering the right amount of value and not forcing customers into a license where they don't need all of those features. And again, because the amount of the customers moving from VMware are so diverse, this flexibility is really, really key. And You'll get 1, 3, and 5 year term options like normal. Licenses are upgradable from one to the other, and it's still that streamlined appliance delivery that you know and love from scale computing, where a customer purchases a new deployment and they get our hardware on site, pre-imaged with HyperCore, ready to initialize in minutes. So, what are the fits for HyperCore Standard and HyperCore Professional? So, first and foremost, what I would say is for those that already know our licensing model today, we have been selling HyperCore software separate from the hardware, even though it's still brought as an appliance for a few years now. What you've already sold or what you've already positioned or looked into, that is HyperCore Professional. So that will be the same great license that you know and love today, that is really successful with the SMB and mid-market. You get the same great level of scale care support as always, no feature differences or anything. The kind of new introduction would be HyperCore Standard, which sits below HyperCore Professional. And this is going to be aimed much more at the what I call the S and SMB. So I asked about, or was asked earlier about what I consider our SMB customers. The standard license is going to be aimed at VMware customers that have 1, 3 hosts max, very minimal hardware requirements, and are coming from kind of the non-cloud foundation, non-vSphere foundation licensing. They're just looking at vSphere standard and have a pretty basic, modest on-premise infrastructure deployment, managing a handful, 10, 15 VMs. Nothing crazy. That's going to be the fit for standard. Um, and we are price transparent. So these are the kind of per core pricing for both standard and professional. You can see you get that discount going with standard, but again, for the first time ever, there are feature differences. And so you can call that out here on what is included in professional and what is not included in standard. The two things that I explained this to our sales team, and I would explain to you that the biggest difference between the license really comes down to what is included in our kind of native data protection suite. So HyperCore Standard does not come equipped with snapshot scheduling and HyperCore's native replication. Customers that are on HyperCore Standard still have our manual snapshots. They still have cloning. They still have all of kind of like the bread and butter of scribe. They have tiering, everything. Except if a customer is not looking to implement scale computing for DR, let's say they're only buying a single 3-node cluster and they have no desire, no designs to buy a additional node for a DR system or an additional cluster for a DR system because they're using third-party data protection tools like Veeam. That would be a great fit for HyperCore Standard. Because again, we don't want to charge customers for replication if they're not going to be using our native replication. It's no secret that customers tend to prefer our snapshotting technology pretty significantly over VMware. But the flip side is that means that customers who aren't always happy with VMware's native snapshotting and data protection technology may not be looking to use the native tools in the VMware alternative that they're moving to. And so again, that might be a great opportunity to move to HyperCore Standard, and you can align the value that a customer will be purchasing rather than HyperCore Professional. While this is exciting, and there will be a lot more flexibility in the core-based licenses. By the way, both of these licenses are sold kind of per node based on the number of compute cores in the node. Those were per core prices that I had on the screen previous. All this is great, but what I'm perhaps even more excited about and more excited for you all is a new entry point into HyperCore, the lowest barrier to entry for most SMBs that we've ever had, and that is HyperCore Professional Essentials. So this is kind of the second new license that we're introducing, and I'm really excited because it is a single all-in price that covers all of the licensing for a 3-node cluster for 1, 3, or 5 years. So for customers that are evaluating a change from VMware, particularly on the smaller side, when they're modest on their hardware requirements, and they want a lifeline, they want a easy cost of entry to go to a full hyperconverged situation. Because again, scale computing is more than just a hypervisor license, which is one thing that I would always emphasize. We make sure to position to our prospects and customers. It's not just a hypervisor. It's hypervisor, full single throat to choke, and software-defined storage. So you don't need to manage an external stand. You can save all of that time and headache of managing external storage. You can position the Hypercore Professional Essentials for just under $18,000 for all nodes in a 3-node cluster for 3 years, which will be typically the most cost-effective entry point for customers, as long as they have, like over 6 cores per host, which is pretty common. Also, what exciting, and why I really think this will be a killer on the channel, is this pack includes all of the feature set of HyperCore Professional. So this means that even though you get that really attractive entry point for a 3-node cluster, you get everything. You get automated snapshots, you get replication, all that great sauce built into HyperCore. But again, in this feature, essentially a bundle of licenses that is going to be great for customers that are evaluating a move from VMware. Now, you might have the question, well, if you get this great entry point and all of the features of HyperCore Professional, what are there any restrictions? And yes, there are. And it comes down to this is limited to 3-node clusters, and each node can only have 256 gigabytes of RAM per node. So much like some of you may remember those VMware kits in the past, this is very similar. Those, you would license basically a max of 6 CPUs. With you can only have 2 CPUs per host. That's essentially 3 hosts. It's very similar to what we're doing here, and making sure that we can accelerate and we can deliver a full HCI package to these VMware customers, because we know it's going to come out better for them in the long run. Just with these configuration limitations, max 3 nodes, 256 gigabytes of RAM per node. One thing to call out is HyperCore Professional Essentials cannot be mixed and matched with additional licenses. So you can't say license 3 nodes with Professional Essentials and then add a 4th node at Professional licensing. This is for 3-node clusters. But again, will in the majority of situations for VMware takeout SMB deals be the most attractive licensing option to move in HyperCore. So with that, Kyle, that was my section. I'm sure we have some questions.
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions in there. I'm happy to maybe we take a quick break before we dive into the resources here, and let's go through them. So there's a few different questions that all kind of tally up into the same general question. So I'm going to ask it to you in 2 parts. The first one is, can you talk to us a little bit more about customers that want to keep their hardware or feel like they haven't reached the end of their life cycle, and the different things that we're doing from that standpoint? And also, how do you believe clients are going to look at the 1, 3, and 5-year licensing when the hardware is typically a 5-year life cycle?
Yeah, great question. So what's still really exciting about the new licensing options is they can be bundled with some long-standing promos that we're running to help ease the burden moving away from VMware. And so, Kyle, you're on the sales side. Keep me honest here about my promos, but we kind of have two on offer. One is the VMware Rip and Replace promo, which is essentially a 25% discount off of
Mitch, if
our
you want to go to
license.
the next slide real quick while we're explaining this.
Perfect. So,
Go one more. One more. There.
essentially, it is a 25% discount on software and services to help ease the burden for customers that still have some life remaining in their on-premise gear. And so you can combine this offer with, again, that HyperCore Professional Essentials licensing pack. and get a really attractive price point where it makes more dollars and cents for a customer to refresh their hardware, even if they're doing that a bit earlier than expected, and get brand new, highly performant system with all of that ease of use benefits and support benefits of going with scale computing over VMware. In addition to this promo, I don't know if we have a slide on it.
Yep.
Yes, we do. We have the seamless switch promo where rather than just baking in a 25% discount, we actually will buy out the hardware or buy out the remaining VMware term for customers with life left on their gear. And so both of these promos can be used, particularly if customers are coming towards the end of their hardware life cycle, and get really effective in a way that makes sense for the customer. As far as storage goes, that's a great question of, well, I have a SAN and I'm not going to be using a SAN when moving to scale computing. Well, what will I do with that? Well, kind of. So we have a lot of customers that end up still leveraging external storage, leveraging a SAN with a newly deployed hypercore cluster, because you can use, basically identify any workloads that are really storage heavy, and then use, iSCSI ingest to connect, that VM running on scale with that external STAN for additional functionality. And so that's another super common strategy. As far as 1, 3, and 5 years, we offer 1 year, but by far our most commonly deployed term lengths are 3 and 5 years. 5 years in particular. One, because we have baked in discounts that reward customers for going with a longer term commitment. And two, again, you're absolutely right. Customers typically want to line up that software life cycle with their hardware life cycle, particularly because we have a very high customer retention rate at scale. And when customers move over to the platform, they end up really loving it because it lets them, not have to worry about the infrastructure. They no longer have to stress out about this. And then it becomes really kind of trivial to just refresh along scale computing's, standard license and life cycles.
Perfect. Mitch, if you want to pop back just a couple slides here, we'll talk about the partner resources real quick. So we're going through a lot of information here, and the one thing that we want to do is always drive you back to our partner portal. This is going to be the one-stop shop for you to be able to get a lot of the information that not only are we talking about today, but also into how you can go to market with scale computing. So we've gone through and we've launched a new sales education tracks up there. There's different trainings that you can go through and take, but we've also added a new battle card training. Really kind of just walks through how you can go through and navigate a battle card against some of the competition out there. But then also the VMware specific battle card is now launched and available for everyone to go through and take a look at. We've also gone through and continued to add more information in there, especially when it comes to the marketing side of the house. We have a new marketing center available. Now, within the marketing center, you'll be able to go through and take a lot of the different campaigns that we've built, put your logo on it, and be able to send that out to your downstream customers or prospects as a whole. And then the other option too is that we do have the basic collateral. So you can go through and co-brand a lot of the collateral itself to be able to go through and send out downstream to your customers. So definitely go into there, partners.scalecomputing.com. If you don't have an account today, you can hit register. If you're not a partner today, there is an apply button. But once you hit that, you can get in and be able to access all the information itself. Mitch, if you want to hop through, we know we touched on a couple of these promotions already, so we'll just skip over to the next one. This is a cool promotion that we have out and going right now. This is our double down to win spiff. Essentially, with this spiff, we want to reward you as the partner for finding these opportunities and being able to bring them to the table. If you go through and reg a deal today, we're going to go through and we'll give you $50 for every deal reg that you submit. However, if you go into the partner portal and you have completed those sales certifications that I was talking about, we're going to 2x that. So at minimum, you'll have $100 for every deal reg that comes in. And then if you go through and close that, we're going to essentially 5x the payout on the closed business itself. So super cool incentive that we are really want you to come in, arm yourself with the knowledge of scale computing to be able to go downstream to your customers. And we've also tied in the marketing aspect of things for you to go through and promote it too. So really double down with us, many chances to win. And then next slide, Mitch. Platform. A lot of us were at Platform last year. This is continuing to grow and get bigger and better every year. So really welcome you all to come out to Platform back in Resorts World in Las Vegas. We'll be there May 13th through the 15th. We have so much cool stuff going on. I'm really excited for this event with cool keynote speaker that we just announced. The agenda is now live with a bunch of the different talk tracks that are going to support all different aspects from partners to end customers to scale computing itself, with even some new faces there to see in the showcase itself. So come out to Platform, really really cool event. But if you don't know how to get there, there's several different ways that we can help you get there with your partnership with us. So reach out to your channel team. They'll be able to talk you through how we can make sure that you have your pass covered and you're there. And then the last slide, I think, is our open office hours. So with open office hours, like this is what we're talking about, of really being able to come and talk to us and have the conversations based on what we're talking about today. So feel free to shoot one more slide, Mitch. Shoot us a message at channel@scale-computing. All our team gets copied on that. So once you send that over, we'll be able to write you back and set up some time to do a one-on-one session for you to answer any questions that you may have. So I know we have a bunch more questions in here, Mitch. So let me start reading some of these off for you. Are my snapshots maintained while migrating from VMware to Scale Computing?
It's going to depend, I think, on the strategy you migrate over with. So if like native VMware snapshots, no, but with like third parties like Acronis, I believe there are ways to maintain like third-party backup history while migrating over or with Veeam or what have you.
Perfect. Does per core dictate physical core or thread? For example, do you take into account the hyperthreading?
It's just the physical core. So if the proc has 8 cores, that's what would be licensed.
All right.
Oh, on
Yeah.
that too, one note, kind of separate thing. As many of you know, we support the Intel NUC kind of form factor, and the Intel Core processors that are available in that line have efficiency and performance cores. Right now, we only consider those performance cores as what we license. So don't be scared if you see a NUC have 14 cores or something like that and think that's what you're gonna be licensing. We just focus on the performance cores.
All right. There's let's I guess there's an example. So let's take we're taking an S customer, a small customer that wants a 3-node active cluster and a DR cluster. Do they buy the licensing twice, or is it a reduced for the DR site?
That's a good question. So with this customer, I would start out and get the hardware resource needs, and then say, all right, it's 3 nodes. If they fit within that RAM footprint of Professional Essentials, I would position that for the 3-node production cluster. And then you could sell a standalone single node system for DR at just standard Hypercore, or not standard, at Hypercore Professional licensing. And it will be pretty cost effective combined with the license savings when going with Professional Essentials at production and then only needing to cover 1 node's worth of licensing at DR, but that DR system does need to be licensed. Good question.
Um, think you just answered this, but in case you didn't, can we mix the use of essentials for just the replication DR target?
Um, yeah. Well, a few things here. So Professional Essentials can't be split up. So like, let's say you buy Professional Essentials and you want to deploy 3 separate single node systems. That is not supported with the license, but Professional Essentials can be can replicate to a remote cluster 4DR that is not the professional essentials license.
There's a lot of good questions in here. Um, how does this license change impact the smallest of customers, the ones that are running a single server running ESXi for free?
That's a good question. So for those customers, if you're running a single server for ESXi, I would look to our micro hardware platforms like our HE150 and HE250. What we typically try to position is the value of replacing a single non-redundant server with a micro cluster of three HE150s or HE250s. Even though those are small hardware platforms, we, in many cases, can satisfy the hardware requirements because the storage and compute and RAM actually as well get pretty heavy in a three-node cluster in that format. And so you could position us with that professional essentials license and get really cost effective. Now, another kind of tip and trick is we have a license here that I did not cover because it's typically used for enterprise edge opportunities. So think of our customers that have like 1,000 retail locations. We have a site license, which is essentially a cluster wide license. Now, for MSPs only, so if you're a managed service provider that has this kind of single server small ESXi customer that you're managing, you could sell that NUC cluster plus a site license, which will be really cost effective and essentially line up with roughly what they would be expecting to pay with a little bit premium. But then again, you get full high availability, you get full fault tolerance, you get live migration, you get rolling updates, you get all those benefits of an actual clustered, reliable virtualization infrastructure over kind of a standard standalone server. So there are a lot of ways that we can address that section of the market. But then again, we just have more flexibility now with these introductions than we did in the past. So you can look at, well, maybe Hypercore Standard works because they're not replicating, and we can combine that with the promos and that fits. Or maybe I'm an MSP and I'll be servicing them so I can do the site license. Or maybe I go and position professional essentials. There's just a lot of different ways that we can slice it now.
Perfect. There is a question in here. Now, I'm going to ask it in a way we may direct them back to platform because we don't want to give too much away. But are there any new features or integrations that are planned in the next 12 to 24 months that address any gaps compared to VMware and Nutanix?
Yes, there are. So there is a integration plan that does address some backup needs. I can't say any more now. I believe we will know more at platform. So again, I would recommend that customers go to platform. It's a great event. But we are continuing our track record of innovation, particularly because we have all of these customers that want to move away from VMware because of the changes being forced upon them by Broadcom. And we're going to double down and make sure that we fill some of those gaps that they're looking for us to fill with continued innovation. So definitely a lot more to learn there. And I would recommend, if you don't go to platform, stay tuned around the May timeframe for some really exciting announcements.
Yep, perfect. And then how much time would you say scale computing takes for a VM-based replication to DR on the same network? I think
So that's kind of hard to answer kind of across the board because it's going to depend on the specifics of the networking and it's going to depend on the specifics of the applications. That initial replication will take a bit longer to seed, of course, because you're sending over all of that kind of that base replication data to begin with. But from there, our replication is pretty efficient. We have full change block tracking and we'll only be replicating the deltas over. So if the VMs don't have particularly large data change, then replication will be pretty fast, especially if it's on the same network. But I would encourage you speak to one of our solutions architects if there's a specific use case or customer in mind, and we can help give more guidance there.
Well, again, if you have any last minute questions, feel free to toss them into the chat. But Mitch, this has been a very a healthy discussion, and I think there's been a lot of good questions that have come in today. Again, if you guys have specific questions, send a note to channel@scalecomputing.com. This is going to hit our whole team. We're going to be able to jump on and be able to dive into it a little bit deeper for you. I hope everyone enjoyed all this new information that's coming out and all the cool, exciting things that are happening over here at Scale Computing. Mitch, any closing remarks or anything else that you would like to add in here before we wrap up?
No, yeah, just want to reiterate, please, we've open desk policy at Scale. So if there are any concerns, questions, additional interests, funnel that our way, and we'll make sure that we answer those in due time. And yeah, because we're committed to the channel and committed to helping you all continue to do business and help your customers that are looking to get away from VMware.
Absolutely. And if we didn't get to any of your questions, we'll reach out to you directly. But again, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in May out at Platform.